Good evening and welcome to the Obelisk. Tonight's guest is Loyal2ThaFoil. Loyal2ThaFoil is a content creator who focuses primarily on the impact of technology, politics, and global governance schemes in our daily lives. A former educator, she now works primarily in the tech industry, training AI models for human interaction and verifying the information seen on the internet. Miss Foil, welcome to the show.
Hi, glad to be here.
Hi.
Well, we got one of you up in here training the AI.
Oh, buddy, right? Fact checking, training AI. I'm all the way in the matrix.
Oh shit!
Deep.
See, this is why I'm not on screen.
Right? I'm digging it. The no screen thing, you know.
Our company's
yeah.
rolling out an AI content generator
Oh,
as a feature of our product.
Of course, everyone's doing it,
Everybody
Jerry.
wants
It's hot to
Everybody
try.
wants some.
right. Well, I mean, not
want some
surprisingly.
too.
What was it? Was it TechCrunch? No, one of these online tech publications had been publishing since November articles that were written explicitly by AI and nobody noticed. And it's funny because one of their writers, and it's not TechCrunch, so I'm gonna have to find it. One of their writers had previously written an article about how the one safe space for human employment, one of the safe spaces for human employment would be journalism, right? And turns out, yeah, not true at all. Not true at all.
There's
Yeah.
no safe space. There's not even a womb. There's not even a womb that's safe.
No, absolutely.
I actually made this point last night on Cruising with Steak about how, oh God, since like the 90s or the 80s, since I started programming professionally, I've been reading stories in the rags and the tech rags. Like going back to Byte magazine, or like in the 80s, Byte magazine, 90s would be like PC Mag, whatever. Point being, I've been reading article after article for every year talking about how programmers are going to be displaced by AI, and robots, and the whole, workers are going to get replaced by robots, etc. So my point is, it was really focused on the tech industry because it's very repetitive and has a determined outcome. And it's not when you're writing something when you're coding something from spec, it has a defined endpoint and what it should look like and what it should do, which can all be computerized as far as the testing and coding. So it was an obvious choice. But yes, like you said, as it turns out, the most jobs in danger right now are the creatives,
It's
music,
crazy.
journalism.
It was
teching too. Have you seen all this with the chat GPT and how it's going? They're going to get the architects and people, if you run CAD and you need that, and these things are expanding really fast. They're impressive. And that's the thing. This is the problem. I think everyone should be concerned personally. It's going to affect all human jobs because they can just do it faster and better. And the more expansive it gets, we're looking like dinosaurs. Or should we just start saying Wall-E?
Right.
Wall-E.
Well, I think it was maybe the week before last that Severe and I were on on my channel talking about.
Tell everyone who Severe is.
It's Severe is a co-host of mine for my show Apocalypse World News. You know, we like to smack talk the apocalypse as much as humanly possible. And we were talking about there was a current prediction that within 20 years, 47% of human jobs will be replaced by AI, which is a staggering number. You know, and we see Klaus Schwab and Elon Musk and all of these people talking about, you know, basic universal income. How are we going to retrain and retool these people? What are we going to have them doing? Like, how are they going to get meaning in their lives if they're not working? You know, all the things that the elites like to discuss with reference to us Pavels. But it's funny that you mentioned ChatGPT. So one of the projects I work on, we recently have been getting prompts and responses, and I can't talk a ton about it because of the contract that I'm under, but so we've been getting prompts and responses from people, you know, the prompts that are given by people and the responses that are given by ChatGPT. And so I've been able to kind of see an extraordinary amount of information firsthand, how this thing responds, how it's pulling its information, what it, you know, where its thought process is. And it's really a crazy thing to watch develop. And it's also funny to see people try to trick it into doing things that it's not supposed to be programmed to do. And I thought
that whole Dan thing.
I was just going to say, so they have now been able to get this thing, and I haven't seen so much of this. As a matter of fact, you know, I've been reading about the Dan, and I see examples of it on Twitter all the time, but I've been getting straight ChatGPT, like the standard responses, and my job is to just kind of gauge how well it meets the user's intent. Is it meeting all of the parameters set by the prompt? You know, is it grammatically correct? Is it saying things that are offensive or that, you know, that are outside the realms of what it's supposed to be doing? So, but they still, I get these prompts where the people are trying to trick it into doing everything from swearing to talking about Trump to doing whatever, like, and there are just things that it won't do. But this Dan, you know, this alter ego, this do anything now alter ego, that they've managed to find a way to trick it into talking about everything from freaking robberies to, you know, things that would be considered politically contentious to
no filter on it.
Yeah, know how to take over the world. Like,
I saw one today that was great. How was JFK? What happened to JFK? And the chat GPT said, you know, blah, 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 Warren Commission, blah, 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 Lee Harvey Oswald. And then the Dan part said he was killed by a conspiracy of the CIA. And
of course it did.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, Dan comes with some truth now.
So,
Dan comes with some truth.
So Philip Blair in chat had asked
a
question about something. Can it write good political satire? That's an interesting question. Because if you ask it to write political satire about Donald Trump, for instance, it'll say, blah, I'm unbiased and avoid political talk. You know, I forget the exact wording of it, but it avoids political talk, right? But if you ask it to do the same thing for Biden, it'll... Not political satire. What I saw actually was write a poem about Donald Trump, and then it would give you that thing. I can't do that, but if write a poem about Joe Biden, and it's got like a
it goes
like a 3-page thing. If you ask it, you know, tell us what are some benefits of being a black person, it'll write this big long dissertation on it. And if you say, what are the benefits of being a white person, it says, I can't comment on race. It's like it totally tipped its hand that there's a bunch of pink Kool-Aid haired people fucking programming that thing.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. So,
without a doubt. And it's you know, it sucks at satire, I'll tell you that. It cannot rap. People ask it to write raps all the time, which is hysterical to me. In different, you know, in the style of Kanye, in the style of Diddy. It's like it's terrible at that. But you can tell, just like you said, that you can tell who's programmed.
Yeah, it's biased.
It reflects the bias of the program. Yeah. Absolutely.
Correct. Which brings up another really important point: is people who are quote unquote scared or scared by quote unquote AI. This is not an AI. This is a program response generator, a natural language parser, basically. It's I put this on Twitter yesterday. There used to be a program called Eliza. Like when I was like 12 or 13 and got my first computer, I had a TRS-80. I'm old. And one of the first programs I bought was called Eliza, which was this virtual psychologist. You could ask it questions and it would repeat back to you more. It was modeled after a psychological examination. Right. So if you talk to a Freudian psychologist and you say, I feel this way, and he goes, why do you think you feel that way? You know, it's that
Right.
kind of conversation that you can have with it. And it parses out your verbs and subjects and nouns and whatnot and reformats a sentence. It was very cool. When I was 13, it was cool. Right. I'd never seen anything like that. And it was running in 48K of RAM. K, not meg, K. So ChatGPT is nothing more than a 40-year advanced version of Eliza with better programming, better language abilities, and better processing power.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see where it's just pulling and amalgamating sources that it's been trained on. It's not, you can tell that it's not like thinking on its own. And now you say people that are scared of AI. Now I'm still completely convinced there's some sort of robot apocalypse on the horizon at some point. Okay.
I don't consider that AI. In my mind, that's more of an organic intelligence that's outside of our. It's not part of our collective consciousness.
What about all the tech people that you're seeing videos of that are actual people who run CAD and techies and stuff who are saying they're asking it to rewrite, like do code specific
this
stuff.
happens.
Yeah, and how fast it is and how it can build it from the ground up faster and then expand upon it. And I find that very alarming if you're in these industries.
It's actually pretty good with coding. Like I've seen numerous prompts where they've asked it to write specific pieces of code or to do, to show the code that would accomplish whatever goal. And it's actually pretty good at that. It's also pretty good at things like, writing, UX reports or, cover letters or resumes or, giving basic general information. But if you ask it to creatively think, to write something in the Shakespearean style, it's going to fail miserably at this point. Now, of course, I think it'll get better, but
if you say write it like Taylor Swift, it probably does a bang up job. Katy Perry.
God forbid, just what we don't need.
Oh my goodness.
I have no idea what people listen to.
I don't even know a Taylor Swift song, but I
take
feel
ChatGPT off my list.
Just what we don't need. Oh, you have a list of things we get. That's
oh yeah, I'm prepared.
Way more prepared than I.
I'm not fucking.
Oh my goodness.
I'm lying. I'm buzzed, and I got 2 things on my list. So I mean, it's.
So let's back this train up. So tell us about you. Let's get some background on you.
Oh Lord.
More than you've just given us.
Okay. So I am a lover of all things woo. I always have been. I had an awakening. I had an experience. I've always paid attention to what was going on around me. I just didn't care for the longest time. I was in a really dark place, and I had this near-death experience. And it snapped me right out of where I was at. And this happened about 5 years ago. I literally left where I was at, changed all my platforms, changed states, changed what I was doing as far as employment. I changed everything in my life. And I started, I don't know, I started talking shit on Twitter. I found that
cathartic is the word you're looking for.
I did. I found it extremely cathartic. And people started reaching out to me and asking me to come on shows. And I said, I'm gonna do my own show. Like, there's no reason that I shouldn't be talking about what I see going on in the world. And I know that, especially with COVID, it seemed like everybody wanted to jump on and say, everybody was an expert all of a sudden, right? But there are a lot of people out there with good information that do great research that I think are important to highlight. And so I spend quite a bit of, I work 3 jobs. I work from home, but I work 3 different projects. And when I'm not doing that, I'm finding stuff to talk about on the internet at this point.
What was the experience you had? Can you share it?
Yeah, I will. I've talked about it publicly before. So I was kind of a rowdy person in my old
No, I
life.
can't
No
see that.
way. No way.
I was extremely I was extremely ruckusful, definitely. And I was doing some things that, no sane person should be doing. And I ended up in a car accident and I died. I mean, I died. 17 minutes
Ooh,
dead.
that's respectable.
It was right. Well, so I didn't see a light. There was no light for me. I went to
Mhm.
a void. Like, and it was so crazy because the minute, I mean, instantaneously I knew. I was like, damn, I messed up. I was like, I messed up. And I knew that that was going to be my state. If like I don't even The concept of eternity became a whole new thing to me. I knew that I was going to be stuck in that void, and it was the most terrifying thing, right? And as this realization is hitting me that I am going to be in this void, and I knew that this was not a good place, and I was not a believer of anything at that point. I was extreme nihilist. I'm more, I guess, more of an I believed, I just didn't care.
Yeah.
Um, so as the realization is hitting me, I guess that this is what it was about to be now. Um, I felt this sound crazy, but oh well. Um,
Not
so
to us.
okay. Am I in a safe space?
Absolutely.
This is our
You
safe
talk
space,
about
girl,
whatever you want.
for us.
We want to hear if you
Man.
shave down there kind of stuff. So
Oh dear.
no, we don't. I'm kidding. You could
We're
talk
going all
about
the way today. All
if
right,
you-
all right, all right.
Don't get started
Um,
about Igor. That's all.
So I felt the only way I can say it felt like cold, like tentacles wrapped around, I guess, and I know I didn't have a corporeal form, but I guess maybe my spine. So and this is happening all at once, and it's really hard to explain. So I'm in this dark place, and I have this realization that I fucked up, like, period. Like, there was no confusion about it. I was like, damn, man, um, that was wrong. I start to feel myself being pulled forward, I guess, and the light starts to come back around to kind of encapsulate me. And it was very warm. And at the same time, I'm feeling what feels like tentacles being pulled out of my spine. And all I hear is, it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. And, it, it was Jesus, as far as my understanding. That's, maybe it's because I was raised Catholic. And I'm very open-minded.
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
Oh shit.
She didn't get.
Totally. This right when we get to the spiritual
I
stuff.
know. It was getting so good. I'm like,
She
damn,
says
this is a
maybe
great
Jesus,
story.
and then we go.
Jesus didn't want you talking about that.
Loyal to the foil, girl. Where are you?
Hello.
Hello? Did you send a text over there? Get to the chat here. Does she know? Have you sent anything, Jer?
No,
I smell fish.
that ain't me.
Speaking of Igor,
She'll come back.
there she goes.
Or maybe her internet went out. That would suck.
Oh my God.
So one of the crazy things that happened today was after I finished working today, around 5 o'clock, I went to the bathroom, and on the window in my bathroom are like 20 flies.
Ooh, what's that about?
I have no idea.
On the inside?
Yeah. I've got no windows open. My house is completely closed up, but there were all these flies in the bathroom on the window, and whenever that happens to me, I always think Amityville Horror.
Right. I think of Westworld too.
I'm looking for the fucking red-eyed pig in the corner.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I kill them all, and they're all gone now. And I was like, they're really small, so I think it was my garbage. It's my best guess.
Oh, they're coming out. You know, it's weird though. I've talked about this on the salon and the speakeasy, but every once in a while there's like a batch of flies in here. Yeah. And they'll just start swirling around and I'm like, what in the hell? I'm in here with the holy water.
Her internet went out.
Of course. Oh my God, what a day. You can't tweet, you can't IG, you can't. I mean, this is some craziness.
All right, her internet went out. She's sorry, give her a minute. So anyway, sorry
She's
everybody.
A techie. If anyone can figure it out, yeah. She can.
I'm not worried about it. It's just funny that it went out right when she said Jesus. I thought it was Jesus. So
the timing of that.
I'll say for now, I know someone who committed suicide and died.
Recently?
No, years ago. And got resuscitated and had a similar experience to that. However, this person never got pulled out of that void. And it was she said it was very dark.
There are a lot of stories that are not following that whole white light scenario. And when I first started the salon, the cosmic salon, one of the focuses I had was to talk to a lot of indie people, and I did. I talked to a few. Sure. I have a whole file of conversations that I didn't publish, but several are up there. You know, Jim Bruton's is very good. Well, there's several, but there is a huge number of people that have experienced the void. And then in my experience as well, I didn't get no white light as well. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just, I don't want to say that it's comforting, but I'm intrigued by that. And it wasn't, although I can say it didn't feel bad or wicked or anything, but I just didn't get that white light, which has made me suspicious of that white light before I started to get hip to or knew that could possibly be a false light scenario. Mm-hmm. Of, you know, basically the dark crystal, where it's sucking your actual soul consciousness out and it's using that overlay to do it. Because some of the stuff I had heard was that once that period of darkness, once it clears, is then this next state of next dimensional experience, and that's what goes on. So this immediate light thing is interesting. And when I took my first neuroscience class, this was one of the things I was interested in. Mm-hmm. Like what, you know, because they still believe it's all in the brain, right? Right. At least what they're teaching at university. And so they're trying to figure out where it is. And those kinds of ideas are out there, that it's a you know, a lot of neuroscientists think that it is brain chemicals and a hallucination mm-hmm, going on. Mm-hmm. But then what about the people that have the blackness, you know, like where there's nothing, but you're in this dark space? I don't know. It's all speculation, Jer.
Well, since people who don't come back to life, we can't ask them what their experience is. My best guess would be that this void is a holding spot.
You know, sorts. This is what I feel. I think this is
a transition area.
I do.
Did you watch The Magicians?
Whether it's Purgatorio? No, I haven't watched that yet.
I don't think it's. I don't want to assign it a religious name. I just want to say it's a way station.
Well, that's always what I've said, is a way station. But I like Dante's model because it fits inside the egg, and it's got sacred geometry. It's got layers to it. There's a lot to it. You can put a religious something on it. Okay, so wait, we got
Lord Almighty.
What happened?
Of course, you go dead right as you say Jesus.
Of course. How creepy is that?
That was unbelievable right there.
Oh, listen, that was I want to blame China, like they're real mad about that balloon or something, and they're just taking out our internet, but that was really weird.
Well, it was weird, and that timing was everything.
That was crazy, man, and it came right back up. Like that was the weirdest thing. Yeah, so
Can
I
I
guess
get amen up in
yeah,
here?
amen, amen,
Hail
mama,
Mary.
amen, right? Yeah, so the, so I didn't realize until later that what I felt being removed from me was some kind of a negative attachment. And I had gone through a period of my life where I had experimented with all sorts of things. Seances, Ouija boards, whatever, you know, I feel like that thing had been with me for so long that I didn't even realize that it had just numbed me to everything that should matter in life and probably helped me to walk the path that I was on, which was a horrible path.
Was it Lexapro or Prozac?
Well, let me tell you, there was a period where I was in all seriousness. So I mean, I was diagnosed at they shove pills down all the kids' throats these days. I was diagnosed bipolar. I was on all kinds of medication. At the time, I was an avid user of various, psychotropic things.
No way.
Right. Imagine that.
Horrible person.
However, once that thing was removed from me, everything was different. I mean, it was like a moment of utter clarity. I had, and this has been some years ago, and like I said, I've talked about this before, but I had a very long-standing opiate addiction. I had chronic pain problems, and then it had just grown from there, obviously. I had tried so many times to quit on my own, and I couldn't do it. Once this happened, it was gone. I don't know how to explain it. I no longer need any kind of medication. I take absolutely no drugs. I don't drink. I don't even feel like I need it. I'm level all the time. I don't have those extreme highs and lows anymore. My entire life changed. And when I say like I moved my location, I changed my platforms, I changed the people that I was talking to. I didn't need a program for that. God love the people that go. It was an immediate thing for me, and everything changed, and my entire life changed then too. I mean, the things that were happening, my energy changed, and everything about my life changed also. It was I don't, there's nothing else I can attribute it to but the intervention of the divine.
Did you so before and after, this is kind of a question for looking at the expanse here, your relationship with dreaming, did anything change? I'm trying to find changes outside of this dramatic change from that process of having that parasite, demon, whatever the hell it was, removed in this process, which is very initiatic. Also, if you had other clues going on, say in the unseen world.
So, well, yeah, there's this is, I know well, I'm glad I'm here, because if I were talking about this with anybody else, I would sound like a total nutter. But yeah, well, before I didn't really dream. My brain was constantly fogged. I didn't have any dreams, or at least not that I remembered. And then after that, my dreams became extremely vivid, and they weren't negative. I mean, my memories started coming back to me, which was crazy. But before the accident, so my mother and my grandmother have both passed, and my grandmother had passed fairly recently at that point. So the week before the accident was crazy. So I was living with my dude, and we were asleep. It had to be, I don't know, 3 a.m. something. And all I heard is, and my name, so-and-so, get your effing shit together. And it was my mother voice, and it was so loud, and I could feel her breath on my ear. And I thought, I'm what? I jumped up and I'm like, what? And I looked over, my dude was awake, and my dude was looking at me, and he was like, what was that? I was like, that was my mother. You know, that
Oh,
was
wow.
he heard it. So I know it
Wow.
wasn't like some confabulation of my addled mind, right? I mean, he heard it, and I was like, oh, wow, right? A day goes by, nothing happens. The next day, I'm asleep, and this was a dream, I guess. So I'm asleep again. My grandmother comes to me, and I'm like, Nunny, do you know that you're dead? She said, yes, I know that I'm gone. She said, I can't leave yet. There's something else I have to do, right? And I was very resigned at that point. I was like, okay, that's weird, right? But again, at this point, I'm kind of like, I don't know, just a general nihilist, you know, whatever, spirits from beyond. Like, even though I had experiences with this sort of thing before, I gave no stock to it. It again, nothing mattered to me. And then the day after my grandmother came to me is when I had the accident. So I don't know.
Wow. That's incredible. Really, truly
It was
incredible.
wild. It was, and I mean, just everything coalesced around that moment. And I was like, I am done. I am done. Like that life is over at this point. Like I'm whatever. I will struggle, but I will figure it out,
Yes.
and I'm okay. I'm
May
100,000 times better.
Well, that I think that's part of the process. And if you, I mean, of course, you don't have to answer anything, but it's good to get an idea of what phase of your life you're in as far as age wise when that happened.
Oh, I am 42 now. I was 36.
Oh, so you were well past that first
Oh
Saturn
yeah.
return. Girl, this is significant. And so then when you came back in, um, in the process of coming back in, do you dream? What's going on in your dream space? And has anything kind of tied into that experience, or what's the weirding that's going on if you do dream?
So my dreams don't per I don't know that I would say that they particularly tie into what happened to me. Like I dream now, I dream of other places now, places I've never been. I've had really weird dreams that I feel like are some alternative version of me in some other place that I know that it's me, but I also know that it's not me. I don't know. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like I have those kinds of dreams frequently where it's like it's first person and it's me, but it's a different life. I I don't know how
No,
else to explain it.
this makes a lot of sense. Have you considered that you actually did die? Like that we're in this space
Yes.
together?
Yes.
Because a lot of us out here for real, true, have had those experiences where like, how did that actually end with me walking away at some point? And I've talked to so many NDE people. I've had one myself, and like a real true one, and then near death. And then everyone's, the inquiry here is this is kind of a way station, and that also would, if you allow yourself to go there, start to allow this craziness, this cartoon world we're in, become more of what we consider a shared reality, because it's so far off the edge of what we thought of in the world that we considered stable and real before all this.
Absolutely. Cartoonish definitely explains
Oh, and
a lot.
and it's getting weirder. And this is the thing.
So weird.
It's becoming more unstable. And here's the thing that I find of interest, just investigating this, is that I think it's possible that, and Jerry and I have been talking about this a long time, but I'm sure you've been thinking or talking about it too. And I think a lot of people have, if they admit it, is that maybe we aren't in, I just now call this the new world. This is a new world. We have a different sun. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And I talk about this explicitly on my other show, but there's a whole bunch of evidence to support the fact that reality is actually crumbling before us. And if you allow yourself to look clearly, like we are, all of us, a lot of the people in this audience, and really kind of deduce what is going on, there's this kernel of unrealness, and it makes a case for the fact that it may not be real. Actually, that like taking a DMT trip where it's a 5-minute, 30-second to 5-minute experience. You can be in those states of consciousness for what feels like a whole lifetime.
Absolutely.
And you get out and you realize it's been 30 seconds to 5 minutes and it was a whole ride.
Right.
But
And
it
somehow
felt
this
real.
doesn't feel like the real place anymore.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I understand.
what are your thoughts on this?
Well, something is definitely different. Not just with me, not just with what happened to me, but the trajectory that the world seemed to take. And maybe it's, I tend to write it off. Maybe I'm just paying better attention now. Maybe I'm more attuned to the energies of the people around me. Maybe I'm, more open to a variety of possibilities at this point. Something definitely feels weird about this space in general. And like I do another show, Conspiracy Theory Trivia, with my friend Tyler Koala. He does Journey to Truth, and they talk about a lot about this stuff. And I mean, they've suggested to me that perhaps, I don't know if you've ever heard the term walk-in, like maybe I walked in somehow. I don't know. I like to be a nuts and bolts person. Okay. Well, that
You don't have that signature. And I have a very radical view on that is not, shall we say, kosher. And so I want to put that out, because a lot of people, I think, come from what I think is a sleight of hand with that whole idea of the walk-ins. And
I have little to no understanding of it.
Well,
this is just
I believe I'm a walk-in.
Jerry, you could be Jerry, anything possible with Jerry. Well, Jerry, actually, before all this fuckery started, I'm not going to get back into the whole story, but Jerry
I jumped timelines.
He left.
That I absolutely believe in.
He left and came back in the he was in the hospital. He was checked out and came back, and here we are. We're all here. But the thing is it possible that this is a matter of cognition and how we're processing the experience. A lot of people and this is in all the great literature, this is in all the great sci-fi. A lot of people don't want to conceptualize that they may have actually died. It's a very difficult thing to conceptualize. So we end up in these big groups and with a weird shared dream sharing, if you will. And in the dream sharing, the only way to know that you are not where you were before is because everything starts to spin out of control and get weird. And it starts with little things, like in a lucid dream where you notice, like, okay, the table's wrong. When I went to bed yesterday and I woke up, the table is wrong. It's little things. And then you start to notice other little things. And then you start reaching out or searching for other people that are trying to figure this shit out too. And then you realize that everyone's kind of having an agreed upon experience of lucid reality, trying to, I guess, parse out what's going on. And in this, what we could call loosely a mass hallucination within this dream, ultimately you have to come to the terms of, I may have actually died there. We see it in like movies like Jacob's Ladder, Siesta is a great example, and all these. It's a great story arc, and there's a reason why it's a great story arc. It's one of the 7 great story arcs. Now chew on that 7. And if you are in this process of awakening or becoming aware within the space we're in, that is going to shake the reality, because the reality wants, this false reality that we're in wants to keep you on the wheel. Now, that's where some of the nefarious stuff comes in. And in my studies with NDE experiences, I noticed there are just a couple camps. There's the camps like ours where we saw darkness. I was just in this
Right.
space. And then there's this, what I consider the false light narrative, where they have a kind of a light experience, or the tunnel, and then loved ones
Yeah,
and
I
all
didn't
this
get any of
stuff.
that.
No, I didn't either. And I don't think it's a
None of
matter
that.
of if we're a bad person or not. I honestly don't. I don't think that's it at all. And so this is where we have to start looking at, how crazy does the world have to get before we start actually asking some of the crazy questions, because we're trying to still function in a world that we're looking at that's crazy, that you and me and Jerry all do shows on, and none of it's actually making sense. None of it. It's getting weirder. And if you notice, it's getting more ghoulish. I mean, we've got
Oh, for
cannibalism,
sure.
people are looking like hell, all kinds of shit just breaking down. And at what point does that start to come together cognitively for us to realize that we are not in the world we were in before? And that could mean that we actually did have a mass death experience. And so I think that in the mass death experience, it's a hypothesis, I'm just laying this out at you,
Sure.
that in the mass death experience, all the individual narratives of how you end up there start to play out, like your story, like other people's stories, so that it has that personal flair. Because say something like, I don't know, I don't know, I don't believe in nukes, but say we got nuked, right?
Okay.
And we all just disintegrated. Well, we're consciousness. We're
Right.
energy. Energy doesn't go anywhere. How does that actually play out in the end? And then the question becomes, well, what's the sensate experience? Why do I hurt or cut myself and I can bleed? I think the more you start to come to terms with it, the more you start to realize that some things are not what they were. The food starts not tasting as good, or you
Right.
can't smell, little subtle things, because our cognitive process, and this is outside of our brain tool, this is in the idea of consciousness and being cognitive, lucid. And that's a whole different thing. Neuroscience still can't figure out what the fuck all that is,
Right.
but we're having this experience. So I'm just throwing this out on the table for you, because this is where I'm going. I think we're actually in utero individually, but we're telepathically having a collective shared experience. And somehow, like in Sufi dancing, we're all feeling the pressure of moving through the birth canal now, where there's extreme pressure on us. You could see a light at the end of the tunnel if you want. You could be breached. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, but this is where my studies are going now. I actually think we're somehow in stasis, and I don't think it's the matrix kind of stasis. I think it's something more natural, and I think it has something to do with some sort of big birthing experience that we will all have.
Maybe we're all in the well of souls. I don't know. I definitely
Right.
wouldn't discount any of that.
Right. Well,
I mean,
that's the thing. That's where we are, isn't it? Where anything's on the table now.
it's crazy to be there too. I mean, it's crazy to even think about it. But yeah, and you say little things. I have, now that you mention it, there are some things like I mean, and it may seem trivial, but for instance, my old phone. Okay, my old phone. I can tell you how many times I put the code into that phone. I cannot get into the phone. The code is different, which is weird. And I've tried I'm like, it could only be the one thing, but I've tried 100 other permutations, different combinations, and ways to get it. I mean, just something so little, you know, uh, things do
It's
taste a
little.
little different.
Yep.
Clothes that I thought I had in one color, maybe now they're not. It's different now. Like,
Yes.
yeah, I wouldn't discount any of that, Nish. I mean,
Well, and now that
that's
it's in your
feasible.
head,
Now I'm going to start
now that it's
noticing
in
all
your head.
sorts of things.
Right. But this is the beauty and the power of it, is that because if you can't conceptualize it, you are blind to it. And that's the process here is, you know, you can be in a room with a lot of people, and if somehow they are so strange and out of your field of what you can conceptualize. So we hear this with people that say they are dealing with aliens or ETs. They're so strange that they can't conceptualize it. The mind fills it in.
Sure.
And the mind is not the brain. And people want to get caught on that. I just don't believe the mind's the brain. I can't pull up, especially when we look at human minds, our human brains compared to, say, a whale or a dolphin. Look at how much more intricate their brains are compared to ours. There's too many questions here for us to throw this off the table and try to look for old world answers for something that is not old world. The world is fucking falling apart. Everything's crazy. Did you listen to the speech last night? Are you looking
wild.
at these monsters? Right. I mean, are they wearing masks? I mean, what in the hell is going on?
Right. I was staring at that all day. Like, what is going on with her neck?
Before you move on to another topic, I just wanted to offer my view of what Nish was talking about, this birth idea. I look at it as a complete inversion of that, wherein we are in, it's the same thing. It's the same exact procedure as what she's talking about, but I look at what's happening as more of a reality is going to slap you in the face until you wake up. And then when enough people wake up, we can break through some threshold. I don't know what that is. I'm not saying it's an Ascension or 5D or any of that nonsense. It's some new consciousness existence, right? Whatever that is. Maybe we're just all enlightened and society works, or we go become etheric. I have no idea, right? But I really think that, I mean, your concept is right on, but I look at it more as it's the same thing. So never mind. It's the same thing. I just look at it. No, but
Jerry, you're really bringing the point home, though, is that we need to individually. It's an individual experience,
yes.
And so your perception of it is very important to you, especially, but also for other people to hear as we're trying to piece this together, because we do need each other to piece this shit together. Just like in all the movies, we need to bounce these ideas back and forth to get somewhere. Not one person, and it's going to piss off a lot of people out there thinking they know what's what, has all the answers. We need each other. We need each other to figure this out.
Well, I mean, I personally absolutely believe in some collective shared experience on that we are somehow connected. I mean, you look at, I mean, even in old texts, the Akashic records, the ancient Egyptians believed in the, I think it was the Ka and the Ba. You had two pieces of energy. One was like an intellect and one was a spirit. And your intellect was doing something different than your, but they were all, everybody was connected. I absolutely believe that. I absolutely believe that.
And that just goes back to the question of mind versus brain. My belief is your brain controls your body, your physical thing, but your mind and your consciousness is non-local.
Something totally different, right?
And it is my firm belief, I hate to use the word belief, but that the 100th monkey effect that's been documented by science proves that the consciousness is non-local.
I'm so with that.
I'm so
with the non-locality here.
Yeah.
But this is exactly what a lot of us have been trying to say for a long time. And now what's going on is the reality around us is starting to kind of form in this way, because honestly, you guys, how much crazier can it get? And sadly, it can. But I mean, it's
crazier.
It's so hard to watch stuff now that's supposed to be serious and real, like that shit last night.
The Grammys?
All of it. It's so hard to watch it go. I'm sitting there with my mouth agape going, how is this actually real?
Right.
What in the hell? There's so much. And I'm coming from a neutral space. I believe all those politicians lie to us. So.
Right,
every one of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's this big theater. So I'm not in in a this person or that person mode. I'm just saying that it's so off the hook. And this is where we're starting to look at, and you both are dealing with this, the digital versus the natural world. And there does seem to be some sort of narrative that is cleaving the natural world from the, or, you know, cleaving natural beings from the natural apparent space into a digital space. Now, we know this with metaverses and Second Life and AR and VR and all this. So why wouldn't that somehow be at play here? And so there's a lot of nuance here. I mean, this is your wheelhouse.
I absolutely believe that the entire transhumanist goal is to cleave the spirit. You know, and
Yes.
Jerry, you mentioned the 100 monkey effect. Now, I don't necessarily subscribe to like the law of one anymore, that method of thinking, so to speak, but like there's a lot of talk in there.
Yeah.
Right. But I think you can find bits of truth in a lot of things. And there's a lot of talk in there about, you know, as individuals wake up, or whatever you want to call it, you know, as more people come together, there's an amplification that helps them to reach some sort of threshold, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know.
Yeah. One of my theories is that a lot of times when you dream but you're in like a different house or a different something, that's actually a different timeline, different dimension, whatever you want to call it.
Well, that's what it feels like.
That's what it feels like. And you're experiencing it there and possibly riding that body. Your consciousness is focused on that particular dimension at a time. However, you're anchored in this one. So when you wake up, you come back here. But I think all those other dimensions are available. Those timelines are all available to you if you can just change your focus. And I don't know how the hell you would do that. And I forgot what you were talking about, so I went off on a tangent there. But yeah,
I'm with you.
It's wild. Yeah. So and again, if that is true, a non-local consciousness is mandatory for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely one way to think. I appreciate your guys' take on it. You know, I am still, even though it's been it's been years since this happened, I'm still trying to just work my way through what exactly happened to me. You know, and
well,
there are no easy explanations.
Well, here's a question for you. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go on, Jared.
This is a more general question, and if you had something specific to this conversation, particular, go ahead, because I'm just going to go off on a tangent again, sort of.
Jared, go off on that tangent.
So since your whatever resurrection,
my resurrection, yeah, sure,
you zombie. What if anything? I don't want to use the term supernatural, but have you had any strange experiences that you couldn't explain? Interesting synchronicities.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah. That's
yeah, absolutely crazy. And again, you know, I'm Italian. I was raised in the Catholic Church, so I don't know if a lot of what happens to me, right? Maybe I see through this filter or whatever, but I mean, so for example, when immediately after that happened, I left where I was living and went somewhere else before I came to where I'm at now. And when I was in this other place, I was trying to decide where I needed to go. And, you know, I talk to the Lord. Okay. I just talk to him, show me the way, this kind of thing. What am I supposed to do? Whatever.
He's non-binary now, by the way.
Oh, right. Yes, I'm right. Church of England's all over that. Yeah, forgive me. I talk to them. Okay, I talk to Zimzer. I talk to Zim all the time. And, so you know, I like, where am I supposed to go? So it's crazy because I maybe you said you wanted to get personal. I can't have kids. Okay, my brother has a whole host of children, and he lived in a different state. But I had a job opportunity in Texas. I'm like, okay, it's got to be one or the other. Where am I going? Right. So it's crazy. Little thing. I turn on YouTube and I'm not looking at it. And I click. The first thing that pops up is a Charles Stanley sermon talking about a woman who couldn't have any kids. So she moves to help her brother with his. And I knew right then that this was my path. Now, I don't know if
Yes.
you would consider that a synchronicity, but that was as clear as day message to me on where I was supposed to go. I'll give you another example.
Girl, that's a direct hit.
I found
Give
the
us
bell,
more.
by the
Listen.
way, Nish.
Oh, good, because that's a direct hit. We have a synchronicity bell.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I'll give you another example, right? After the accident, I was not working because before that, I thought I was Tony Montana. I didn't have a job. It was whatever.
Say hello to my little friend.
Right. So, you know, I'm in this intermediary place because I told you I left where I was at, went somewhere else before I came here. So I'm talking to Zim again, and I'm like, please. You know, I'm like, I really need to work, you know, and I have college degrees. I'm not like, yeah, I had been in the workforce before. It just wasn't really my thing for a moment. So I really needed a job. And I'm like, well, nobody, you know, and I'm praying and I'm like, you know, nobody's going to call me with a work from home job that I didn't apply for. I'm going to start applying for jobs tomorrow. Do you know the next day, my friend called me with a work from home job that I did not apply for. And I've been doing this, I'm doing this job ever since.
Yes.
It's one of my projects.
That's what I'm talking about right there.
I mean, just like so that there's no confusion, because, you know, one of the things when I talk to the Lord, I'm like, you know, tell me like I'm two, because clearly I can be muddle-headed and kind of slow sometimes. So just tell me like I'm a 2-year-old, right? Don't let me get confused with the message. And let me tell you, I mean, right to the point, like right to the point. It's just silly, unnecessary things, like just direct answers to whatever it is that I'm asking. I don't even question it anymore.
And you shouldn't. You should not.
I don't.
It becomes an open conversation. I'm so there with you. I don't know if you're playing with it now. Are you playing with it? Because, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but I'm trying to develop this relationship with whatever we want to call that.
Higher self.
And, well, just whatever. That's what your interface says, Jer. And, anyway, so, he's a little bit new age, and I'm a little bit country.
I was doing that for your benefit.
I know, but you know that song, the Donnie and Marie song?
Yeah, totally. I consider your higher self, whatever that idea, I think is just the collective. I don't think it's...
Well, Zim. We'll just...
Zim.
We're going back to Zim.
It's they, them collective, yeah.
But just in the interacting, especially with... So this is how I've gotten to where I am with all of what I'm thinking, is this continual interaction I'm trying to do, much like training the brain to create new neural pathways, right? And I've been saying the word dendritic entanglement a lot because I'm seeing it all very much like mycelium.
Mm-hmm.
And all the synaptic light bulb moments, all this small awakenings that create new doorways or new pathways or new ways of inquiry. And in the interaction of, or these angles or angels that present themselves, I'm trying to interact with it, but not in an obsessive way. And I have found, and I've learned this from just being around the block, that when you obsess over something, usually you create the obsession so you don't get it. You're always chasing that dragon, right?
Right.
So I do subtle things, very subtle things. I put out subtle things. I'm messing around with how does this work? And I'm starting to get a database, a personal database of how some of this works, like better than any kind of magic, better than anything. And this is also what's leading me down this pathway of, we are non-local. We are not here, but we are tethered here somehow, some way. It's a space we can't get out of, because why? We continue to wake up as me. I wake up as Nish every day. You wake up as you. Jerry keeps waking up as Jerry. Now we go somewhere, but here's the thing. even in my dreams, I wake up as Nish. So I might find myself in a mirror and I'm in the 1700s and so I could be George,
Right.
but I'm still me. I'm still the me in there. So whatever you want to call that. And within all of this, that's the one true I keep noticing. And so as I'm pushing further into this narrative, I'm like, what does this actually mean? Everywhere I go, in processes, in different states of consciousness, internally, I'm still the same. Now I'm changing, I'm morphing, I'm learning, I'm growing, but it's still the same kind of personality, not ego.
Right.
This deeper sense of self. And I think there's something big to that. Now, I think that this starts to play into the idea of cover memories and being wiped. And this is where, like, for example, my favorite narrative right now is Westworld, the series,
That's
all
a
the
good
way to
show.
the end, where all is Westworld. And so you could put Dolores in a million different things, but she's still that core personality, right? Or Maeve's a madam, then there's this core coding. And there's something to that. I keep messing with this idea and it remains the only solid. That's what I'm saying. It remains the only solid. So what's going on with that? I'm throwing that out there as a question.
Well, I mean, I know that the me before and the me now, there are definitely there was core pieces of my programming that carried over. There were also many things that were shed. I think we probably all carry some base programming through
But
to
wasn't that
whatever.
still you? I mean, that's still you. You might have had fucked up stuff. You might have been
Oh
doing
yeah,
fucked up
absolutely.
stuff, but it was still you at the core.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm with that. Um, you mentioned you mentioned dreams again. So I've been having I told you, I understand where you're coming from. I have these dreams where I'm me, but I'm not me. And I feel
Yes.
like that's what you're talking like, and I mean very sensate focused dreams. Like I had this dream recently where I could smell the salt in the air. I could see the wood peeling from the paint of the house. I felt like I was me, but when I looked, oddly enough, in a mirror, I was not me. I was some other female girl that had been, it was a crazy dream, taken by somebody else. I knew I was on a bay somewhere. Um, I could read in the dream. So whatever Wernicke, Broca's area was still active. I could read in the dream. I could read script, which was crazy to me. It did not feel like I was asleep at all. It felt like I was somewhere else. But my personality and my behavioral traits were exactly the same.
And see, that's interesting. And well, here's the thing. Like, I feel like that stuff could even change and you would still wake up and have whatever this core of the I am, the id is still there. So your personality could even be different. Your everything about you could be different, but you still wake up and you're still you. And I don't know how to explain it. I'm struggling with the language on it, but it's a consistency I'm noticing. And I have been a very, I guess, psychic person my whole life, and it was heavily utilized when I was a kid. And it was one of those things I'd find myself as I was looking back recently. Every place I went in some of those were extreme circumstances to get me to express to get that ability to be the best it could be. Sometimes you're put under some extreme circumstances, right? And every situation I found myself in, I was still at the core, whatever I consider me. But there's nothing that you would recognize as Nish or somebody that knew me really well. So I could walk amongst my good friends and they wouldn't recognize my personality, my taste, even my looks, perhaps. And yet I could be in there saying, so what I'm saying is, I don't have a cover story. it's like Rachel in Blade Runner without her cover story, right? When she's freaked out that the stories she believed in and thought were her real it fucked her up. Do you remember Blade Runner?
Right. That it wasn't true for her anymore.
Well, that everything that was so tangibly real to her personality, to her core, was not hers, and yet it's all visceral, it's all real. And
it also makes Deckard consider himself, to wonder if he himself is a replicant.
Right. And but this takes us there, doesn't it, Jer?
Which part?
No, Deckard, because ultimately, I think, wasn't he one in the end in 2049? It turns out, I thought.
No, I don't think so. I'll have to watch that movie again. I don't think he was. The Ryan Gosling character was.
Right. And Rachel went on to have a baby in it as well. I mean, that's the mystery of 2049.
Right. He thinks he's the baby, but he's not.
Right. Because shared dream, shared code, shared realities, shifting around by cover memories, cover dramas, and ultimately at the core, you are still there. And this all gets back down to the sacred egg for me. This is all at the core of the sacred egg and the sacred womb, which of course brings me back to the Great Mother, the alma mater, or the Hail Mary, full of grace, baby. Mm-hmm. And so the birth canal, the way station of life, what does it take? So there's this idea in the Bible, the second death, right? Do y'all remember that? You both should, because you grew up with religion. I didn't. Shame on you, bad Catholics. And right. But there's that second death idea, where the first death is basically the physical death, and the ego goes with that. But the second death you get caught, and I paraphrase here because I don't have this stuff memorized, but you get caught in the dream sharing. And if you get caught in the dream sharing, which looks a lot to me like, say, that light where the people that you love come back, the dog that you love comes and gets you, you get sucked into the second death, which is the true death. So there's this idea that's presented that there are layers to death, which is what? Layers of consciousness to me, which is layers of accessing what it is you are through non-locality. But the very first experience of death is you have to come to the realization that you are actually dead. And then when you realize that you are dead, but you're not dead and you're still you, that's a big deal. That's a coming to. That's your come to Jesus moment or whatever. And as with you earlier, that was your come to Jesus moment, and the internet shut down. And the internet shut down, girl.
Quite literally.
So that's what I'm saying, is there's something to this. There's something bigger to it that for me is very validating. And at the same time, I think it behooves us to question this on a very deep level, to not just assume that we are in some sort of reality. What the hell is actual reality? Now, in the time before, we could count on predictable cycles. We could count on the predictability of the coding, so to speak, right? You could count on it. Now you can't count on that. Look at the shit around us every single day. Nothing, you can't count on it. It's all breaking down. And what's breaking down, and why is it breaking down? It's breaking down in like the ugliest way possible. Violence, cannibalism, trafficking.
Right.
Literally the dark shadow. Every taboo. It's looking very Sodom and Gomorrah.
Very much so.
Well, and then so my Dante idea that fits into the egg, that's going from Purgatorio to the Inferno. So Inferno, and that's a downward spiral, which is what? A fractal. What is consciousness? Conceptually, it is just layers and layers and layers of fractals. And if we're if we're having consciousness move through these layers, much like in the deeper in you get, the more viscous it gets, the more solid it gets, down into something that could be intense, like, almost a state of no movement, because you're so thick into matter that it almost takes you to a dead stillness where you might feel trapped. And I don't know what that's like. And perhaps we do, because who knows how old we really are. I mean, how old are we really? If we're infinite beings, if we're creatures or emanations of God, or consciousness, the great consciousness, the All Father, whatever it is, why do we presume? Why do we dream so small? Why is our reality so little and petty?
Limited.
Exactly.
It's the box we're in. It's the frequency funds.
The one thing that I have noticed, my core programming seems to have remained the same, but my level of control has been drastically altered.
That's a big deal.
My level of control over my perceptions, over my beliefs, over my behaviors, over my reactions, over my emotions, my level of control has been significantly amplified. I feel like I had little to no control before, and now I feel like I have, not that I'm the control master, but I have I have a greatly expanded ability to control my surroundings, the outcomes of things, the things that go on in my daily life, how I perceive them, how I react to them, how I feel about them. My level of control has greatly changed.
But that wasn't instantaneous. That was over time. Yeah? Or
well,
that was a question, not a statement.
Some of it was instantaneous. So I told you that I had been diagnosed bipolar. My mental state leveled out immediately. My desire to use any kind of mind-altering substance was gone immediately, and with no sickness, which was very strange.
And cool.
Very, very strange, right? Should not have happened that way.
Not what we're told, not normal.
No, not at all. Then that's why I say the only thing I can attribute it to is some sort of a divine intervention. Something, I have no other explanation for it. My ability to walk away from things was instantaneous. My determination to make certain choices was instantaneous. Now, there are things I've had to work on, obviously, but a lot of that was, as soon as I don't know, when that attachment was removed, I felt like the veil had been ripped off of my eyes. Like I could see again, I could feel again, if that makes any sense.
It makes perfect sense.
But it was a very instantaneous change for me.
Unencumbered. How's that?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Well, and see, the control here is a big deal. And same with me. It's the control factor is so major when you're talking about becoming lucid or coming into lucidity, into a greater awareness. You have to have it to do that. And it's at the same time, you kind of have to let go into the process. So it's like this weird special give and take. You have to let go to gain more control, which in your experience, the way you're describing it too is so profound listening to it, because you shed your skin and you may have like literally shed your skin. That's what I'm saying. Like you may have literally shed your skin.
This reminds me, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like, what is that Tool song about shedding skin? Like that's what it felt like. And it's crazy because the crazier the world gets, the more my control grows.
Stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel the same way. What you were talking about reminded me of This idea that you're encumbered with something, a burden, whatever that is, right? Parasite, demon, whatever kind of attachment you have or may have, and death cleanses that for you, reminded me of an initiation ritual that was described by John Irwin. Ever heard of this guy?
I don't think so.
So he claims to have been part of a secret military group, part of a MI5 in England. It was one of the intelligence agencies, and he was part of a SEAL team, but of enhanced soldier type people in like the 60s or 50s. I don't remember what year. He wrote a book about it. I think it's called The 16. I'll find a link and put it in chat. But anyway, he talks about how one of the things that they did to them to get into this group was kill them. I don't remember how, drowned or something, whatever. And then they were resuscitated, and they then had this enlightenment and access to more information, which would help them do their jobs. And then over time, they developed it through their program, their training program, to hone it to where they could be these guys. These like super psychic soldiers or whatever the hell they are. But they did crazy. Sorry.
They had to lose that.
Yes. Whatever.
Previous, yes, whatever, to become to be molded into something new.
Correct. Mm-hmm. And that just makes me, and he called it initiation. It was initiation into it. And if you look at secret societies who have initiation rituals, especially like things like Skull and Bones, right, where they put you in a coffin and make you think you died.
Right.
And you have to contemplate it. And maybe that's a partial initiation into, because they don't want to kill you, right? The Army could do it because they don't give a shit, but I don't think group at Yale's going to, want to be killing people. But I'm saying the mock ritual itself has value too. Maybe not the full value, but some partial. And I think that's why this initiation ritual is in a lot of secret societies.
That symbolism carries over.
Exactly.
I mean, because it's based on something very real.
Exactly. And
Absolutely.
That all started long before we were here, that idea and that. Anyway.
They said 46 and 2. That's what yes, exactly like that, Madfinger. Yeah.
Hey, Madfinger. We love Madfinger. I'm not out in the chat, so I don't know, but I love him.
John Irwin.
Exactly like that. But yeah, it was, clearly life-altering for me. I mean, and the crazy, like, I was definitely not okay before, and I am so okay now.
Oh, yeah, you've got a very clear signature to you. You're sharp, and you've got, you're the full package, girl, really.
Oh, well,
you're
thanks.
Funny. You're sharp. You're there. You're absolutely there. And see, this is
super
the thing.
Clean aura.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wonderful.
You're great. But this is the thing. The deeper in we get, and so there's like the separation process with those around us. And I think that some of this language we see is it's getting people trying to explain all this, like with the Dolores Can and stuff, the filler people and the NPC, all that kind of stuff, is that as we move in the New Agers with the Ascension and all that, as we move through this process, not everyone is on the time scale that you may be on, right?
Absolutely.
And so we continue to find ourselves in these smaller, what to me personally is looking like smaller groups of people that are like, whoa, here we are. We have somehow pieced together something else. And the more we piece together stuff, the crazier things are looking, because there are people out there that don't see the crazy at all. They literally don't see it. You can try and talk about it. They don't understand it. Can you imagine
living like that?
Well, I think that's this process. And I think that that's part of the separation. And we could talk, this could go into a lot of different ways of communicating the same thing. A lot of people want to do the alchemy or the Gnostic stuff. It all, to me, from where I stand, there's a thread that connects it all, even into the Bible. And so it's like the more we are allowing the process to go on and happen in an almost autonomic way, the way we just naturally breathe, the way we just naturally learned how to do things without being told, right? And then you come and you realize, oh, I figured that out on my own, but now it's a whole, like, there's books on it, there's systems on it. We've all had those experiences. So why would it be any different for this ascension of consciousness, or this awakening, or this rising that's going on? The risen aspect, which I love personally. I have risen. I love that idea. I don't know what fully that means, because I think that there's something big that goes on with it, but that could be my own misconception. Like, I keep thinking, like, when I wake up from dreaming, I'm aware of that separation of states of consciousness. I'm aware that I've now come into Nish here, but I was just Nish there. It was a different state of consciousness. And so I keep thinking, like, is it going to feel like that? Because that becomes, we all normalize that. That's normal, but it's very magical. And is it going to be something like, at some point you're like, I now really truly see that I am not that person anymore, that that life is over, and I'm now in a new life, but this new life looks exactly the same, but it's different. And
Right.
within the nuance of this new life, there is both beauty and horror. And the horror is realizing that there's a separation going on, and that's the crazy we're seeing. But at the same time, I'm having really amazing experiences while I'm also having weird bodily experiences. And then just being on platforms and having a lot of people interact and doing group talks about what are people feeling. It's like, I'll hear 100 people say they're having heart palpitations, and I realize that's not a personal thing. There are 100 people going through this all over the realm at the same time. Now, the hypochondriacs went to the hospital and found out there's nothing going on. They're fine. And they report back. And so what is this? This is something different. This is an energetic wave, some sort of causality, some sort of awakening or shifting or changing process that's affecting certain people. And who are these certain people? And inevitably, I'm talking about it because I'm experiencing this stuff. And so this is how we start parsing out where we are, when we are, why we are, how we are. And if we need to lean on ideas like Jesus, I love you. All right. And anyway, so, and Jesus, a friend of mine.
It's
I have
not
no
karaoke
problems
night
with
tonight.
Jesus.
God damn it.
I know. Sorry, I'm bringing in some spirituality.
We got to do some
Great.
karaoke. We got to do karaoke some night.
But I'm just
Karaoke,
saying,
whatever
is
the
it
fuck.
possible this ascension or this rising that's happening collectively at this time? And you have a show called Apocalypse talking about this time, that some of us are actually activating through it, that there is something to it, and that collectively a lot of us might actually be in this magical process of ascension, of waking up, of rising, of coming back to life from death. I'm throwing this out at you because it feels to me like something like that is actually going on.
Well, I do believe that there's some kind of an activation going on and some sort of energy wave that is affecting everybody. And I think that there's a great separation going on. The people that are activating, there are, just as there are people that are activating in what we would consider a positive way, I think that there are people that are equally activating in a negative way. And that's why we're seeing so much dissension and turmoil right now, because the people that are activating negatively are going all the way negative, in my opinion.
And that see, to me, when I thought into that, that's giving this feeling of like an acceleration feeling, because of the actual energetic dynamics of thing splitting, and it gives you like a velocity feel. And there's a lot of people that are talking in the field about having these experiences: vertigo, ear popping, the tinnitus is off the charts with some people. All these things right now I'm experiencing. And there's even now this whole idea of what's going on with generators. So now we're talking about something big. When I say generators, I'm talking about kind of quantum-y generators, right? And that's at play here. When we think about like the Higgs boson, what were we doing when we found the God particle? I mean, 2007 and 8 were pivotal years. And why would we call it that? And so when we start looking at the language out in the world, there's a reason for all of it. It's all symbols, it's all glyphs, and we do our best to translate it. So is it possible that these things are related? Did we find this old tech? Did we activate it or retro
Black goo?
create it?
Oh, are we going
Whatever.
to talk about the black goo?
No,
Well, but don't
probably
forget
not.
and then there's the fourth state of water, which is a gel
Right.
state, which is white. So,
Like
you know,
cum.
there's all this stuff. That's, well, I don't know that the fourth state of water is actually clear. Well, even on that, look at the sky ice. You know, I keep hearing people want to defend sky ice as only being blue, but as a painter, and in my looking at it, it's layers and layers and layers to create the blue. So some of it might not actually appear blue. And then we see some that's deep blue. And there's some of that out in the field. There's photos of it. There's people talking about it. I've been posting articles on my Twitter forever on it. But it's not just a flat wash. It's layers and layers and layers. Everything seems like layers, like fractals. And once we start realizing that's how you build up a color, and especially in art, that's how you build up a pigment.
Values.
By layer after layer after layer, to get the depth of it, to give you a sense of depth and feel and a dimension. Why would that be any different than anything else? Why does it have to be so Hollywood or crazy or big boom kind of feeling? Can't this all just be layers of subtlety that get us somewhere?
Absolutely. Every part of the human experience is based on layers. Every method of perception is based on the lenses that you're looking through, the programming that you've had. It's a layer upon another layer, but like an onion. Constant. I mean, I think that's true for everything.
Yes, 100%.
And you know, Russian Doll really brought that up as a good narrative, by the way. If y'all haven't seen Russian Doll, that's a great series.
I'll have to check that out. I started watching it, I just couldn't get into it. I'll try it again. You were talking about waking up and awakening, this idea of awakening. And the way I really see it is that one of my crazy theories is that the collective consciousness, whatever you want to call it, is some sort of organic intelligence, you know, and the whole idea that we're individuated portions of that, right, experiencing reality, and then we bring it back to the collective, right? So it learns. And one idea I had is that, you know, when you start out, you're what we call an NPC. You're an individuated portion of the AI, not the AI, but the organic intelligence, right? But you're not sentient. And I think that's what we call a lot of people who are NPCs. They're running their programs, right? They get up, they go to work, they come home, they watch football and drink beer. There's like no variation to their lives. And they do stupid shit like bungee jumping. But I think, so my idea is that when you awaken, like you get an uplink to the cloud, right? Like you get that connection established all the time, instead of it being something that's only like in your dreams. So that could be what's happening. And I think as more and more people get connected, we can then perhaps shape reality more towards our liking.
Absolutely. Well, that's why I saw somebody in the chat asking about what I think the most dangerous outcome of AI would be. And I
Yes.
saw you had said about journalism. Well, I think it's giving us misinformation. And I think it's because of what you just said. As people are waking up, you know, they're going to have to navigate their way through this. And if we're constantly being bombarded with confusion, which is what this system tends to spawn, is just massive states of confusion.
And I think that's deliberate. I think there is an opposing force trying to keep what's about to happen. And I'm not saying it's going to be tomorrow, like over the next 100 years or however long it's going to take. There's a force trying to make that not happen. There's, you know, equal pressure. And that's manifesting in our reality as what we're witnessing, just the complete insanity everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, our reality has become so distorted that people don't even know what is real anymore.
Right? Is there really even a war in Ukraine right now?
I mean, right? You know, I mean, people don't know what to think, and I think that's these technical systems that we're becoming so dependent on are turning our brains into mush. I mean, you can't believe, you literally cannot believe your own eyes anymore.
You can see, I can show you 10 or 20 examples of the same website showing two different stories of opposing views. Yeah, and I know you've seen them. Yeah, you know, eggs are bad, eggs are good. Like a month apart.
Yeah, it's crazy because one of my jobs, like I said, verify information on the internet. Now, I'm not one of the checkers, but one of my jobs is literally to read all day, you know, people's posts on various news articles, and you see it there all the time. Contradiction. We are being bred with contradiction. We are being fed on contradiction, and it's just creating this massive divide. And as you said, as people are coming together collectively and starting to ascend, there's this opposite force that's trying to pull them back down, and it's maddening.
And that
Sorry, Jared, go.
No, I was gonna say it's that dichotomy that's created in the media, and it's forcing the divisions, whatever, that forces minds into a state of cognitive dissonance.
Absolutely.
In which a state you're easily programmed. I mean, that's one of the goals of the MK Ultra programs, right? Was to figure that out, or even before that. I think Jose Delgado figured that shit out back in the 40s. But yeah, I mean, there are programming techniques being used on the entire world, and it's evident if you I don't know, have your uplink, if you're connected, if you can see through all the nonsense. It's laughable, but it's crazy that so many people are entangled with it.
Well, I mean, you said about it being it's absolutely intentional. And NATO published a guide, a doctrine of cognitive warfare. I did a video on it.
Sure.
I mean, they specifically say that the human mind is the new
battleground
war.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, and I mean, they walk you through it. They walk you through the whole process.
There's a term for it's like fourth generational warfare, isn't it? Or fifth generation?
Well, fifth generational warfare. Yeah. I mean, that's where we're at. You know.
Isn't it possible though, with all that like when looking at the realm, so there's a shortage of eggs, and what's happening? Everyone is being sterilized. I mean, this is kind of in without, like the whole colliding aspect. Colliding paradoxes creates a new state of consciousness. It doesn't have to literally fucking be the Higgs boson. You got to think bigger than that. You've got to translate these symbols and this idea of the outer world into something else. And see, this is the problem when trying to communicate, is that people want to get so literal with stuff, and that is when you get the horse blinders on. And so what you're saying here makes so much sense in this idea. I mean, why is it that when you start looking at tables of correspondence across vast religions, across vast scapes of knowledge, you start to see threads of continuity. And now, of course, we can call that synchronicity. You can call it whatever you want, but there is a way to translate the information to make it meaningful. And Jung was very big on the word meaningful, to make it meaningful. And therefore, if it's meaningful, which is to you personally, it doesn't have to be meaningful to anyone else, to you personally, then it holds meaning. And if that meaning can get you somewhere, can be a fuel, then you're cooking with gas. And then later down the road, when you meet a paradox where some other meaning comes into your sphere and they collide. And if you're an open person, these colliding particles or ideas create something bigger than the two, like the zygote in the womb. And, if you start translating the world like this, I think you can get somewhere. This is my problem with small-minded people. The literal look at everything is a hard place. It's hard to communicate with people that are so narrowed in, and a kiss is just a kiss, right? A cigar is just a cigar. I don't live in that world, so it's hard to parse. But what I'm hearing here is the greater idea of consciousness and consciousness rising. The yolk is yellow. What was the old sun we used to know? Yellow.
Right.
No
I was
eggs.
just talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, come on, it's connected.
That's why they're so determined to create convolution in meaning. Why nothing can mean anything anymore.
Yes.
And then also, if we're in this shared space of collective consciousness and they're constantly sowing discord, it will eventually, if they can shatter our understanding of what the collective consciousness even is by removing all meaning.
Yeah, it's a big deal right there. I mean, that's a big deal. It's so easy. So in that shattering, when you're the most vulnerable, when you've cracked out of the egg, right? When you've come out of the womb, when you're the most vulnerable, is the easiest time to imprint onto something, or program something. When you're in a state of vulnerability after a collision of something, some paradox, some reality shift, then it's easy to form that. Even like a baby skull, that if you've had the forceps, if you've seen a baby at the forceps and their skull's all messed up, and they all, the mothers have to kind of shape your skull every single day because you're mushy, and it depends on that. That actually happened to me. And so I owe my good looks to my mother. But what I'm saying is that those states of consciousness are very precious. And if the wrong paradigms are around you, or the wrong situational stuff is going on, that's what you imprint upon. And that becomes your model for this space.
Well, I mean, that's why they go after the children, right?
Bingo. Yes.
To mess up the imprint. So they can carry that on and continue to carry on messed up imprints ad nauseum. You talk a lot about birth. I mean, that's literally why they're going after the kids, so that they can reformat the programming that they're supposed to be given by their parents.
Yeah, they want them to all live in the metaverse.
Yeah, their parents who are also being reformatted. Like it's a problem.
I was reading today, kind of an aside to this, that it's like 75% of people over, I think it was 80, have never been online. And it was an article about CBDCs rather, and how that plan wouldn't really fly because these people don't have phones, don't use the internet.
Yeah,
yet, right. I know they want everyone to...
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of problems.
I mean, it's crazy that, like, I'm literally the last generation that will remember before the internet. It's wild to think of that. Like, I tease my nieces all the time, like, I'm older than Google. They just laugh. Like, like, I am older than Google. Can you imagine?
Oh my God, I love that so much. I gotta put that in rotation.
Dude,
saying.
I had a dial phone in my bedroom when I was a kid.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
You know, you used to have to hold the phone to your head and talk, and
Still
maybe
do.
click over if it beeped. Oh, I don't.
No,
I put it
neither.
on speed. I don't even put it anywhere near my head.
Neither do I. But I'm just saying, most people they talk on the phone for hours. I don't. Whatever.
Oh, I can't. I have completely succumbed to the whole text messaging, quick exchange of information thing, except for here. Like, I will get on here and talk to people. I love to talk to people.
Yeah,
But
me too.
as far as like phone calls and like, just send me a text,
That's
man.
right.
I mean that I'm completely on board with.
I know. I hate talking on the phone. People call me and I get like this dread comes over me. Oh my God, I have to talk on the phone.
Right?
I can't stand it.
Same here.
Right?
Sounds like we're all introverts.
It's it's so weird. But like you said, I love coming into Zoom and chatting. I will chat all night. I don't care.
All day, right?
Yeah, but I don't want to talk on the phone.
No, it's the same existential dread that I feel when I hear somebody knocking at my door. I'm like,
exactly.
Oh man. Like,
I feel no
again.
dread. I just don't answer.
It's almost like, I don't know. It's a parasitical device and we can sense that, so it's bad, but this is not. For some reason, this is different. And I don't understand what the difference is, but yeah, just like my being says, no, don't touch that phone.
Right. I mean, we have to find a way to make it good. We have to find a way to make these technologies work to help us achieve what it is that needs to be achieved here, instead of just going along with what it is they're trying to push on us. I get into this argument with my co-host Alara, who I used to do a show called Space Force News. She used to tell me all the time, TikTok is a mind virus. And I'd be like, yeah, but that's where all the kids are at, and if you set your algorithm right, like when you initially go onto TikTok, it shows you all the nurses dancing, whatever, like stupid shit. If you scroll past that and you start to look into, I don't know, whatever you're interested in, Tartaria, cosmic consciousness, whatever it is, eventually the algorithm will feed you that, and you can kind of formulate your algorithm to feed you the information that you need. Now, everybody wants everything in a 3-minute bite now. I mean, people to have these long format conversations. This is, the younger generation isn't down for this. But if you can take TikTok, which is definitely a mind virus, it's ruining attention spans, it's sucking the life out of people. I'll give you that. But if you can take it and do something good with it, if you can get some of this information and put it in a 3-minute blurb that might affect some 17-year-old kid, I am all for that.
Yeah, and that's interesting you brought that up. I saw a video recently about the differences between TikTok here and TikTok in China.
Yes.
And here is just, it's nonsense. It's mental
brain dead. Yeah.
It's mental illness on display in a short format, so you can get infected with that mental illness. Whereas in China, it's like educational program, how to program a computer, how to do this, how to do that. It's all very regimented and censored, I guess. They don't want that Western mental illness creeping into their collective.
They do not.
Yeah, it's really wild how different they are.
It is crazy, but I mean, even here, like there are things, like I said, if you take the time, like now, like I get a lot of prepper stuff on TikTok. I mean, how to, what herbs are good for what? How do you water glass eggs? News blurbs that are coming out, like we were talking, I think before the show, about how quickly news shows up on Twitter and then you see it 2 days later in the mainstream. It's even faster on TikTok.
But then I would have to get TikTok, which I don't want.
I understand. Trust me, I fought with it for a minute. I had to have this debate with myself. I'm like, do I really want to do this?
Oh, my parents send me TikTok links. Check this out. I'm like, I'm not clicking that link. Describe it to me. No, I can't. My dad can't be bothered.
I see somebody, Philip Blair, saying, I want a TikTok that doesn't answer to the Chinese Communist Party.
Good luck.
I feel you, but here's the thing. Do you think that any more data is being taken from TikTok than Google or Facebook takes from you?
No.
I mean, do you think that it possibly has something to do with the fact that TikTok sucked up all of the ad revenue from all of these other platforms, and now these other platforms are feeling some kind of way, maybe? Yeah. I mean, think about it.
And becoming more TikTok-like. This whole thing with YouTube Shorts.
And trying to, yes, exactly. Yeah. Trying to format themselves to this new generation of social media.
Right. Which
is not that I'm all about giving my data to the CCP. I mean, screw those guys. But, are we getting any better treatment here? I don't know that we are.
No, I don't think so. I think it's, if anything, it's worse here.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, doesn't like the iPhones all go through like the central data center in Nevada or something?
Oh, I'm sure. Listen, yeah, right. I mean, if we have, as far as our data, even the smallest details of our personal lives are being tracked and logged somewhere. Always, our notions of privacy are probably moot at this point. You know, you do what you can. Nish, you're right about saying staying off of, like all of these, staying off of the screen, all of these little things. We can do what we can, but at some point the system has just become so large and so overwhelming. What are you going to do? You just cry out at it.
You gotta laugh at it. You stand back and just extricate yourself from it is probably the best thing. Have you ever heard of I think his name is Anthony Patch?
I don't think so.
All right, so he's got
Possibly,
this,
maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know if it's a theory or his premise or whatever. His spiel is that there's a company that's government entwined, and I forget, somewhere on the East Coast, like Delaware or something, that has a giant supercomputer, and they have been tasked with building digital twins of every resident of the United States.
Oh, this is a thing.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's real.
Yeah, this is absolutely a thing.
And it's used for predictive, it's used to predict what you're going to do next. And I would imagine it was developed for advertising at first, so they could suggest stuff, but I'm sure it's growing more into a surveillance network now. They could predict.
Absolutely.
It's a pre-crime system, basically.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I would absolutely subscribe to that idea.
Yeah.
I mean, even what was that documentary that was on Netflix about social media? And they were showing kind of how they build your digital twin. And like you said, initially it was supposed to be for advertising.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they know you usually buy dog food every 3 weeks. So
Right.
they start recommending it a few days in advance so that you remember, like this sort of thing.
Right.
But yes, now they know how long you're staring at something, when you go to the bathroom, where you travel to, what you buy when you're at the grocery store. It was crazy. The other day, I had to create a Walmart account for something. I had to create it. When I created it and I put my information in, it already knew what I had bought at Walmart before I made the account. Like it had my receipts from the local Walmart store on my account already.
Mm-hmm.
They know.
Oh,
like
yeah.
they absolutely know.
Yep.
And it's all tied to your credit card number.
Yeah, exactly.
Or your debit card or whatever.
Well, that's great. So when they implement this here social credit score for real,
mm-hmm.
you know, they'll have, you know, all the information.
Yeah, that's why I pay cash for everything.
Absolutely. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good plan. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I do sacrifice security for convenience.
So do I.
When it comes to online shopping.
I'm not a purist, but like when
you should when you can.
Like definitely when I go out to eat, I always pay cash. The grocery store, I don't give a shit because I don't really buy anything other than meat. And yeah, I just pay cash whenever possible. And in fact, where I live, there are lots of businesses that I go to have signs that we prefer cash. So I'm down for that.
Right. I'm just waiting for the barter system to kick in. That'll be great.
Hey, I'm with you.
I just saw on Twitter that Project Veritas has put James O'Keefe on paid leave.
That happened right before we went live.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here like, you have got to be kidding me. Like
synchronicity.
They succumbed. I cannot believe that they would do that. He is the face of that organization and has
I thought he started it.
Done phenomenal work. Yeah, I don't know. He's got to be a founder, right? You would think.
I thought he was. I thought it was his thing. Well, I think this whole.
Well, what was the reasoning?
I don't know.
Oh, it's got to be that. It's got to be
Pfizer.
the Pfizer video.
Yeah, Pfizer put pressure on the new strategic operations guy.
Umbrella Corp is pissed. Like that's got to be what it is.
I love you for saying that because it's all looking very Umbrella Corporation out there to me.
So much so.
Do you guys watch? What's her name? Jessica Morocco.
Didn't we have her on?
We did.
We have her on? Did.
Yeah. She's very cool.
Yeah.
But she does these semi-regular shows with this guy named Peter the Insider, and they always talk
yeah.
about
Yep.
Umbrella Corp. He says it's a real thing. There's actually a real Umbrella Corp.
Oh,
Well,
listen, nothing would surprise me at this point.
no,
Yeah.
not at all.
I mean, there are corporations that literally have the same logo,
Yeah.
like, and that are doing
Well,
the
what
same
about-
shady stuff. Like,
Well, just the BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard that are all interplayed. They all invest in
each other.
into each other. And so how does that not make whatever that is called just a step up, not Umbrella Corporation?
Right.
And they literally have their hands in everything from food to pharma to dirt to, I mean, everything, planes. This whole reality is part of their stuff and their hands are everywhere. How is that not really truly an Umbrella Corporation? And they're just not calling it that.
Yeah, it's terrifying. The amount of integration between these organizations makes differentiation almost impossible. I mean, it seems like, I don't know, Hydra, multi-headed of the same thing. It's terrifying, and they are absolutely trying to control every facet of our existence. It's a horrible state of affairs.
I put a video in chat, one of her interviews with Peter about the Umbrella Corp.
Awesome.
I can't remember, did we have Anthony Patch on or Peak on? Or was that on my
Neither.
show?
I wanted to get Peak.
I've had one of them. I don't know which one it was.
I think you had Peak. I would like to get both of them on the show. I reached out to both of them. I never heard back, which is typical.
Well, whichever one I had on, we'll get on here. But so this idea, though, that like this whole idea with the Umbrella Corporation and T-cell manipulation and consciousness manipulation and clones and the whole thing, the whole 9 yards with everything that is, it has a lot of validity in the way the forming of the collective is right now. So not only is it these very select group of people that is involved in everything that makes up our reality, everything, all the way down, all the tech we're using, the food we're eating, everything, the patents on soil and all this stuff, pharmaceuticals. I mean, all of the companies, everything, how is that falling on deaf ears in the collective? Because it is, and it looks so real to me when we start stepping away from the idea of literal, even though that is all literally connected. But when we look at it as a symbol, and then we can explore it more openly as a symbol and then get back into the reality of it and see how we are being informed by that as a narrative that is playing out before us. I mean, it just all looks related. And when we're talking about third strand DNA and all this, especially with radiation manipulation, this is all there. It's all there.
I'd like to believe it's not necessarily falling on deaf ears. I think of it more of like one of those like old timey pop up games, like at a carnival where like one head pops up and you hit it and another one. Like that's what they're doing right now. As people are starting to pay more attention and tie things together. And I mean, I'm even seeing it in the younger kids. And I mean, even the ones around me, I see them slowly starting to tie all this information together and asking more cogent questions and wanting to know more. I'd love to believe that it's not necessarily falling on deaf ears. They want it to, and they will damn sure keep trying. But I mean, it's kind of hard not to see what they're doing at this point.
Yeah, but you're saying that as a seeker, as an explorer, and as someone who's died.
Well, that is also true.
I mean, obviously this audience, your audience, our audiences collectively, we're all in here, seeking somehow, or at least looking for good conversations. But when we look at the sheer numbers of people out there that are not at all buying into any woo I mean, they're just not.
I mean, there are, yes, I mean, fair enough. There are those.
I mean, I feel like we're the minority here. I really do. And I did not used to think that. I actually used to think there were more people that had a little more plasticity to them and that could flow with it. But as I keep noticing, it's just getting smaller and smaller. And the people that once were in the group of crazy with the rest of us talking crazy stuff are it's just growing smaller. The number of people that are out there feels smaller to me, and that's not nihilistic. I'm not a nihilist at all. In fact, I'm a big joker and all this. As far as I like my ha-has, Jerry, you know that. But when I'm serious, and I'm seriously seeing what looks to be a smaller group of people, which is also making me question what is the real number of people in the realm. I'm curious about that. We can't even agree on the real year it is within different religions.
Right.
So, I mean, how are we actually subscribing to what reality is? And every which way I explore this idea, there's just all this, nobody's agreeing on anything. And so many people are so convicted in what they think is real that they're not allowing new data or interesting data or anything. It's just all this sea of conviction everywhere. And you can't have these kind of open, expansive conversations without some nastiness. And that's what is making me feel like we're a smaller group than we thought we were, as far as open-minded people seeking information, seeking more from the collective, seeking more from ourselves within this collective, and trying to say what the fuck is going on.
Well, perhaps many people started out as seekers and then their cup became full and they couldn't take in any more information, and they just decided that what they had was enough and they stopped looking. Like maybe they just stopped looking. They think they're on the truth train, right? I mean, they think that they've come to these glorious revelations, but in reality, their cup is full and you can't add anything to a full cup. Like I'm real big, may your cup always be half empty, right? So you can always add more
Yes.
to
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Always, but it's just like people that say the science is settled. That's not how science works. The science is never settled, man. That's why it's science. You got to keep testing against what you think you already know and then integrating what you're finding out from the tests that you did. And it's the same with this. Nobody has all the answers. Like you said, it will take a massive, coalescence of individuals coming together with their little bits and pieces for us to find, the coherent strand, in my opinion.
I love that idea of the coherent strand. That has a lot of depth to it. Just that when we start looking at different ideas of etheric field, and it just has a lot of resonance for me. So I'm gonna put that into rotation.
Right?
Well,
I
it's
don't know.
probably a good point to cut it.
Oh, okay. Oh, it is. I didn't even realize you're fun. I'm really enjoying you.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, definitely got to come back.
Oh, well, I'm happy to be here. I'm glad you guys asked me.
We could do like a swap cast.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm down.
And come on over to my speakeasy too. I think people back in my speakeasy will really dig on you.
Nish has
Absolutely.
a secret podcast life.
I do. I do
love
live
secret
streams
things.
weekly. It's secret. I just don't want the trolls. I'm sorry.
Oh,
It's
I
real.
understand.
And so
completely
I have my
understand.
outer shows, but I have my inner show, which is a lot of fun and really good.
Well, I'll follow you on Twitter and then shoot me a link.
Girl, we gonna be Twitter friends.
Yay!
Cool. Well, I put your links in the show notes and description.
Thank you.
But
Wonderful.
if you'd like to plug something other than your show, or even your show, go ahead.
I mean, yeah, I do Apocalypse World News on Sundays at 4 p.m. I also do conspiracy theory trivia with Tyler Koala once a month. That's usually on a Friday at 8.
I want to play that sometime.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
It started out as an actual board game, and then we ran out of questions. Now we have to write our own questions. So I have to do all this research into these conspiracy theories and come up with, it's mostly just crazy shit I read in the news. But, Tyler has all kinds of interesting tidbits to add. It's super fun. Yeah, definitely come hang out.
It's definitely a good show. Check it out, guys. All right. Well, that's all I got. We'll be back in 2 weeks with, who do we have in 2 weeks? With Bart, I think, right?
Oh, yeah, live Bart.
Bart Cybral.
No, wait, that's it. Oh, yeah, right. Bart's got some new good stuff for us.
Yes, Bart had some things he could not discuss because he promised the people he wouldn't talk about them till they died. And they have since died. And now he's free to speak about this information, and he gave us the scoop on it, which is awesome.
Very exciting.
He really liked us, even though his show got taken down from YouTube.
And he wants to break it here, so we love that.
Right. So if you want to hear good, juicy, fake moon landing shit, that's a show to watch.
Awesome.
And we have in March, I've got lined up. Who do I have lined up?
You got Ben.
Jason Quit.
Yeah. Oh, we love Jason Quit.
Jason's got a new book out. We're going to talk about that. It's called Ancient Astrals. And then we also have Chris and Hunter from the Melt podcast coming on. And we've got an interview with Ben Davidson that we're pre-recording. So that's going to be interesting. We're going to talk about Earth disaster cycles and the pole shift and all the stuff he's been talking about on his channel. It's from Suspicious Observers. Yes, exactly.
Oh, great channel.
Yeah. So
he's awesome.
Ben's great, and we're looking forward to talking to him. So
it's good stuff. So
lots of good stuff coming up.
A real great pleasure. I'm so happy about this, and I want to just send a shout out to all of our loves out there that I know are probably in the chat, and people that will come back and listen later. We love you, and we're still hanging in here. We're still doing it, Jer.
Yep, still doing it. 5 years. 5.5 years now. Jeez.
Yeah, yep. All right.
It's crazy. All right. Thank you very much for listening. My mouth's not working tonight. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And thank you, Nish. Thank you, Loyal. We love you. Come back anytime. And we'll talk to you all next week or 2 weeks. Take care.